Today, I wanted to go through the hidden costs of making your first sales hire, or frankly, just adding another person to your sales team, and really going through and just taking a deep dive on what that budget would look like. Now, all of these numbers are for early 2025. I'm also going to walk through some ways that I think you can save money on these costs. Let's jump on in. Okay, so the first thing, what do we need to think about? We need to think about base salaries. We need to think about variable compensation. We need to think about recruiting costs. We need to think about health insurance and payroll taxes. We need to think about tools as well. So let's run some real numbers. If we look at a mid-market account executive in the United States, we are probably paying this person somewhere in the realm of $100,000 per year. Now, there's a variable compensation here as well. That is in gray, and the reason it is in gray is this is dependent on their own performance, right? So we don't actually have to worry about that until this person's actually started selling. So in terms of like our base cost, it's not really there. Now there's a recruiting cost, $25,000. I'm going to walk through some ways that you can bring that cost down, but this is assuming you use a recruiter and they do all of the work for you. There's health insurance and payroll taxes. There are tools, and then there is office space. Possibly you have an office stipend. If you look at a lot of remote companies, if you look at how much they actually spend flying everyone out for their various retreats and that sort of thing, I don't think you'll find that they're saving a whole lot of money with that kind of setup. But the key point there, for every dollar you're paying someone in base salary, they're probably costing you about another 80 cents on top. Even if we take into account the variable compensation for their total compensation or their on-target earnings, we're probably looking at about another 40%. So some nuance on the base salary. So much of this is going to depend on the segment you sell into and the sort of person you're looking for. Maybe you're looking for an SMB account executive. You're selling a lot of small deals. You might be able to get away with paying someone $60,000 to $80,000. Now, mid-market account executives are what I've modeled all of this costing on. And for that, you're probably paying in the realm of $90,000 to $120,000 in base salary per year. I think for most startups, a mid-market account executive is the first person that you should be hiring to your sales team. Ideally, you want to hire two of these at once so that you can test them off against each other. Then we've got enterprise AEs. These are people doing six-figure deals, often doing about $1 million a year in quota or more. And you're paying that person somewhere between $120,000 to $150,000 a year on their base salary. Now, with salespeople, there's the base salary, there's the variable compensation, which is their commission. That kind of comes together, and we have the on-target earnings. So on-target earnings are usually twice the base salary, or base salary is 50%, the variable compensation is 50%, and then we've usually got a quota that is 4 to 5x the on-target earnings. If you're a small startup and you're trying to attract people, that number is probably 4. If you are a large company and you've got a lot of momentum, that number might be out at 5. So can you save money by hiring SDRs, junior talent, college graduates, people that are just getting started in their career? The answer is not really, right? So you might save a little bit of money on the base salary, but where this is going to come and bite you is the variable compensation. SDRs, you're probably looking $75,000 to $90,000 in on-target earnings, but an SDR is usually paid on creating a marketing qualified lead or a sales qualified lead, or whatever you want to call it. This is a meeting that is set with a prospect that the organization deems as relevant. The key nuance to that is this meeting does not necessarily mean that any revenue is coming in the door, right? So theoretically, you could have an SDR who sets meetings all year long, and they're all qualified meetings, but none of them turn into closed deals. So there is a bit of saving there, but it's a little bit of a mirage. Now, assuming you use a recruiter, that cost is going to be a little bit less. It's not a huge amount less. The health insurance and payroll taxes, they're more or less the same. The tools, if anything, are actually more expensive than an account executive would use, just because a lot of prospecting tools these days are so expensive. Your office space, that's the same. So you're not saving a whole lot of money. You're getting someone that you need to manage a lot more closely, and they're not bringing in direct revenue. Now, recruiting, you can save money by doing your own recruiting if you have time, if you have the attention. Job ads, they're really cheap. but you're going to have to spend a huge amount of time filtering. If you have 1,000 applicants, which is not hard to get with a job ad these days, and you spend even 30 seconds on each applicant, that is 500 minutes. That is basically 8 hours of nothing but looking at profiles, right? So even if you spend 15 seconds, you might be looking at more or less like a full day of work. And that's before you have any qualified calls. Now, if you'd like a way to get qualified candidates for a fraction of the price of using a recruiter, there is a link below. I've got an offer. Take a look. You might find it interesting. It's just going to be at the top of the description. But we've also got these additional costs. Things like health insurance and payroll taxes, they're totally unavoidable. Now with tools, you might be able to save here, but it's also pretty easy to spend $800 a month on sales tools. Then you're going to spend another $2,000 a year on the laptop and accessories. The question you need to be asking is, do you really need the enterprise version of all of the software you're buying? Actually audit whether or not you need all of the features, because it's very easy to spend 3 times, 4 times, 5 times as much for an extra feature that you might not even want. Second thing, office space. Commercial real estate hasn't had the greatest last few years. You might actually be able to save some money here. But the key point is, if you've got a profitable sales team, if you're paying someone even $280,000 a year all in, but they're bringing in $800,000 a year, and you're thinking about this in the context of being a venture-backed startup where you're trying to raise money and you've got recurring revenue, it's all really a bit of a rounding error. If you think about e-com, it's that classic, we've got a profitable return on ad spend. We've got a money-making machine. We might as well funnel a whole lot more money into it. If you don't, you're just hemorrhaging large amounts of money very, very quickly. So the key thing is like, if this makes sense, recruiting people, hiring salespeople, it all makes the most sense in the world. If this isn't working for you, you've got to fix that before you move things forward. I've got a couple other videos that are going to be up here. Take a look at them. Otherwise, if you'd like to talk to me, the link to speak with me is in the description below. Talk to you soon. Bye.